Does that answer your question? I should pee before we do this. I'm sorry.
Oh shit! Oh God! Kidding again? Oh my God!
This week's episode of The Voice Party is brought to you by Big Boy Raps. Get your car wrapped by some of the most experienced and skilled in the Bay. Big Boy Raps, where the big boys play.
Ba-bum, ba-bum, ba-bum. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, listeners all around the world, I present to you The Voice Party. We got master comedian JD Arandia. We got yours truly, Joaquin Xavier, and we have the delightfully ingenuitous Phil Spooner on the boards.
What's up, Phil?
So it's just us.
I know. I said, "What's up, Phil?"
Yeah. It's just us. We're, doing our thing.
That's enough.
We were just talking about how after the DNC sabotaged Bernie Sanders' primary campaign, I'll never vote for another Democrat. So, the usual.
Unless they put Bernie in 2020.
Bernie ain't gonna live that long. We were gonna be lucky to get one term out of Bernie.
He's gonna run as a skeleton.
We mentioned this earlier on a different episode where we were talking about Tales from the Crypt. When I first heard the name Tales from the Crypt, I thought it was some gangster show with some Crypt telling stories when I was a kid, because I knew about Crips, because Crips and Bloods and TV everywhere on TV. So Tales from the Crypt, I thought it was gonna be like this gang show where they hey cuz, so we was in the streets, yeah, exactly.
And then ghoul just came up out of the dumpster, and it was like rotten flesh hanging off its bones, and I was like, cuz, get your strap. And then the thing bit my Uncle Harry's shoulder off, cuz, and we all started running, like that.
So when I was a kid again, I was like, all right, let's watch it. And it's like, oh no, it's a scary house coming. Like, I don't like this already. And then, you get that monster. It scared the shit out of me, bro.
I don't know if he's still our friend. Oh, it's a little too loud for you. Let me turn that down. Since now we can do that.
Okay.
We had this friend who had one of the palsies, right?
Palsies.
I think the cerebral one.
Oh, yeah.
Right? The sexiest of the palsies. But me and my friend Carlos were hanging out with him because we were both unemployed at the time. And we picked him up like on a Wednesday, and my friend Carlos was like, "What up, blood?" as he's getting in the car. The next day we go to pick him up, my friend Carlos is like, "What up, Crip?" And he just loses his shit. "Don't ever call me a fucking Crip, you understand me? Don't you ever fucking call me a Crip." And we're like, calm up, dude. Calm down.
Oh. It never occurred to him that he was referring to the gangster. He thought you were mocking him because of his physical disability.
Oh, fuck.
But you would have thought the fact that he called him a blood the very day before would have been kind of a clue.
It's possible that he was unfamiliar with the concept.
And the fact that we had...
A lot of people that don't know about the gang Bloods, and they say, "What's up, blood?" And then another... Yeah, but that is, I can see why he got mad though.
That sounds like a very Carlos thing to do. What up,
Carlos would do a lot of things. Like, he would tag people when they weren't there. He'd be at like the boardwalk and fucking tag people he wasn't hanging out with, and be like, "I'm totally not there, but it would have been nice to be invited."
I miss Carlos.
Yeah, he got my friend in trouble doing that one time. my friend Chad, who you've heard stories about, was dating this really crazy girl, right? She was insane.
Put the cats on the phone, Chad.
Like, we had to hang out with.
I've heard of that.
Yeah, because she was so crazy. We had to like hang out with him in secret.
Yeah. Wow.
And so we'd have to like wait down the street and watch her car drive to work, and then okay, let's go get him, and then pick him up, and then we have to drop him off before she got home from work. And there was one time she called while he was like hanging out with my friend Carlos, and he was trying to say that he was at home, and she didn't believe him, so she was like, "Put the cat on the phone." And he's just like, "Oh, you want me to put the cat on the phone?" To my friend Carlos's credit, he meowed his heart out to save my friend from an argument.
Yes.
Well, there was one time where me and Carlos went down to like Santa Cruz and we're hanging out at the boardwalk.
I would have hung out and just ended the relationship right there.
Well, we
hung out.
Well, we went down to the boardwalk and we're hanging out, and like Carlos like took some pictures and tagged Chad in it. And apparently, Chad is sitting at the dinner table with I almost said her name, with his crazy girlfriend, and she's looking at her phone, and she was like, "I thought you weren't hanging out with your friends tonight." And he's like, "I'm not." "Then why does it say you're at the boardwalk right now?" And he was like, "I'm here having dinner with you." "Then why does it say you're at the boardwalk right now, Chad? Why would he tag you if you weren't there?" And it was a whole fucking argument. So my friend Carlos stopped doing that because he was like, "All right, I can see how this would have negative ramifications."
That is. Are you trying to tell us something, Phil?
It got so bad that like my friend Chad started to sound like a battered wife.
Yeah.
Because he would tell us things like, "I'm just gonna go. She's just gonna come home and I'm gonna be gone. There's gonna be no note. I'm just gonna leave while she's at work."
Holy shit, that's really scary.
Yeah, it was bad. I'm really glad he got out of that relationship and is in a much better place now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I miss Chad. I really do.
That's a very uncomfortable place to see your friends in too. I'm glad. Well, that was your microphone that was causing some.
Yeah, when I turn on my mic, it also picks up you guys. So I turn it off when I'm not speaking.
That makes sense.
Makes sense.
He turns it off when he's not, just in case you didn't hear that, listeners, because
Yes.
his mic was off.
Yeah, no, I've gotten in trouble for that before where I got tagged on something and I said I was supposed to be somewhere and I wasn't. I mean, that would get anyone pissed off. Why were you lying to me about where you're at? But when it's like, put the cats on the phone, that's hilarious. We don't have cats.
Put the cat on the phone. Put the cat.
I mean, this girl had problems. Like, Chad told us later on that she would do things like she would take a picture of the stove before she left for work so she could check to make sure she turned the stove off.
Oh, I get that because I forget shit.
And then like she was also the type of person where like if the light turned red while she was in the intersection, like she's trying to make the yellow light, she doesn't do it. She'll like freak out and make 4 left turns and go through the intersection again.
What?
What the fuck?
Go through the intersection again? What?
I guess she had like some kind of OCD.
Yeah. She had something.
It was OCD.
There was one time we went out to dinner and my buddy was freaking out because he was like, "She's gonna be home in an hour. We gotta hurry up. Where's our food? We gotta get done. I gotta be home in an hour." And me and my friend were just like, "Here's what you do. You have a back door, right? Just come in through the back. We'll knock on the front door. And when she answers, you go in through the back and act like you've been there this whole time and get mad at her for not noticing that you've been home."
Oh, genius.
That's what you do. Fight crazy with crazy.
I mean, if she's got OCD, that makes some of that behavior make sense.
Fuck that. Just come late. Fuck it. I'm late. That's too stressful to be living in lies. I've been here all along, babe.
CIA agents do it all the time.
It reminds me of this Greg Giraldo joke where he said, "I've been trying to hide my drinking from my wife." And he's like, the other day I came home really drunk in my motorcycle, and I just he said I climbed into bed pretending I was sleeping already, but it didn't work because I was still wearing my helmet. So that's the kind of crazy. It's dude. We're horrible at lying unless you're like the CIA. But even then, because all their secrets get leaked, so they're really not that good.
There is a show back in the day called The Americans. I think it's still running.
Yeah, we talked about that. Yeah, The Americans.
Where you have to live. Think about that. You're a Russian pretending to be American, not just to other Americans, but to your own children. Like that, talk about living a lie.
Yeah, that's true. That's different though. You fuck up, you're gonna get killed,
or at least deported.
I guess,
and then killed by Russians. I think your own country. Yeah. Oh yeah, you're pretty screwed.
I guess with this is just your girl is giving you shit, which is not the same.
Yeah,
I think it's not the same kind of, But that's the thing. I guess it's hard to say. I'm talking all brave and like shit because I'm single, but I'm talking like I don't fucking flinch at my girl before.
Happy wife, happy life.
Yeah, but when you're single, you talk all that shit.
That's true.
Because you're not dealing with it, but like, yeah, man, I would never take that shit. and then once you get a girl that's like that, like.
I remember I think Phil might have said on the show, correct me if I'm wrong, like some time ago, where he was like, no, not on a recent episode.
No, I'm kidding.
But didn't you say, Phil, you were the sort of guy, I feel like we said this on camera, that, well, not camera, at least in recording, where it's like your girlfriend will come home and it's like, babe, look what I brought. And it's like a drone that delivers cans of soda and a giant several-inch TV screen that costs a huge amount of the
Well, yeah, because there's some couples where it's like, oh man, you guys should really get Netflix. Well, let me talk it over with Jim and see if that's something we want to do and see if it's in the budget. Whereas I'm the type of person where like the missus will come home, there'll be a new TV and a drone, and I'll be like, I got a great deal on all this stuff. Because my philosophy is, I'm like, look, as long as the bills are paid, I don't care what you spend your money on. Don't trip over what I spend my money on. Is the bills paid? Calm the fuck down. Right? That's my philosophy. I don't know if you guys agree or not.
Yeah, I mean,
I think it's fine if if you guys don't have if the bills are all paid and you don't have kids, whatever.
And you got extra money.
Yeah, that's fine.
As long as you're not.
You basically are
next month's rent money.
You basically are like the Dinks from Doug. You know what I mean? Like, you notice you remember Doug, Phil?
I do. I remember the real Doug and I remember Disney's Doug.
Right. Well, you remember the Dinks, right? The neighbors?
Yeah, Doug switched to Disney for the last couple seasons, and the show got terrible. So there's regular Doug, and then there's Disney's Doug.
Yeah, you remember the Dinks? One thing I didn't pick up on until I was older, like they were the neighbors that were always bragging, like Mr. Dink always had something fancy, like I have the new ultra satellite system for my television, very expensive. Or I've got the new Bronco busting 5000 that makes you feel like you're really riding on a horse, very expensive. And you realize they're both in their 50s. Neither of them ever had kids. They're using disposable money on this extra expensive stuff. It's not that they're unusually wealthy. It's just that they don't have like the expensive children, so they have to spend it on something.
Yeah, that's true.
That's where all that money goes.
Because when you're single and you don't have kids, you know, like I see my friends that have kids. Mario and Graciela, a perfect example. They're, buying a house and all this shit. Meanwhile, I'm looking for funny hats for my dog. You see the difference in the shit we spend. I wanted to ask you guys something.
Yes.
Who should I start with? Start with Phil. No, I'm kidding. So, it's has there ever been a moment? Are we talking about relationships here now, or are we?
I mean, we can talk about. We don't really have like an agenda. I just hit record and let the pieces fall where they may.
That's the title of this episode. Let the pieces fall where they may.
Pieces fall where they may. But I wanna let's pretend we're speaking to our younger selves. All right. What would you say to your younger self? Right, like about you right now. I'll start with you.
Damn. How young are we talking?
High school, senior year. Let's say you can go back in time and talk to you in your senior year on your graduation day. What can you go say to that little shit?
Invest in Netflix.
Oh, Bitcoin.
Invest in. Oh yes, Bitcoin. Actually, it's even better. Invest in Bitcoin.
Apple, Bitcoin, Amazon.
That's what I would tell myself.
See, I would tell my younger self these hoes ain't loyal. But then he wouldn't get the reference because the song's not out. So then I have to like play him the song to get him caught up to speed. And then he gonna be like, I don't like hip hop. I'm like, I don't like hip hop either, but you gotta fucking learn this shit, all right? It's pop culture. All right, just nod your head and pretend, okay?
Goodness gracious. Phil surprised me though sometimes. We were in the car once and he was like, you heard of this guy? He's playing like Forest Hills Drive by J. Cole. I think he's got real potential. And I'm like, yeah, it's like his 4th album, Phil.
And he's a megastar. Hold on. Is that like, let's be honest, what would you really say though? What would you really say? You're in a happy relationship, so that doesn't work for me. What would you really say?
I was a very different person in high school than I think everybody is.
You're supposed to.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the idea of growing up.
Yeah.
You know, I would say things are going to get better, but be patient. Be patient. Don't expect it in the next decade and a half.
High school, you would be like, where's your hair, man?
I would tell him the real world is a very unforgiving place.
Yeah. Kind of like what Thor's mom told him in, or Thor's mom in
Endgame.
The world has been cruel to you, or something like that.
Oh yeah,
the future has been cruel to you.
Because he came back all fat and depressed. The future has been cruel.
That's me. Oh man. Yeah. It gets better. Is it better, man?
Some days are better than others.
Okay.
Some days are better than others. I think overall things are better.
Yeah.
But it took a long time to get here.
That's true.
It took a long time, and there was a lot of adversity. And there was a lot of times where it seemed hopeless. And then 10 years later, something good finally happened. So...
That was a great day, huh? I'm just kidding.
Yeah, no, I remember.
I'm kidding.
So I remember this was years ago. I was hanging out with my buddy Carlos. We're at Toys R Us. That's how long, it was a while ago. Toys R Us was still a thing.
Ago.
And they had the replica Red Ranger helmet from Bandai. And I was like, oh my God. And so I bought that. And they also had the replica WWE World title. And so I bought that too. And I was like, hell fucking yeah. And then me and my friend Carlos went with Rigo and his wife. And we went and saw Christopher Titus perform. And that was fucking awesome. And then we went.
My homie just opened for him last night.
Oh, nice. I love Titus.
Okay.
And then we went to Buffalo Wild Wings afterwards. And I remember driving the car on the way back, and I'm like, this has been the best day of my life. I could careen off the side of the road right now and have no regrets. And Rigo, just without missing a beat, was just like, please don't.
That was your best.
That was the best day of my life. I got a Red Ranger helmet, a championship belt, saw Christopher Titus, and had delicious chicken wings. Best day of my life.
That is a really good.
He can die now.
Yeah. Yeah, that's, I hear that, where you have a moment and you feel like hey, this is it.
What's been your best day of your life?
Wow.
I don't think I have had mine yet.
Well, the best day of my life.
I have one that's close, but not close enough.
I've had some good ones.
Like, do you think about that ever? Where you just sit back and think about what's been the best day I've experienced all my life? I mean, like that. I'm sure there's stuff that top that in different ways, though.
No, not really.
Like,
I got moments, but entire days?
Oh, yeah, moments. What's one of those moments? Because sometimes you forget about the good moments.
All right. There's a kid, looked me right in the eyes, one of my high school students. He said, you know what? And this was like his senior year. It was on his way out. And we've been working together. I've been working with this kid for 4 years. He said, you know what? I can't complain. All I can do is try my best because you and Mr. Fish work so hard to keep me on the straight and narrow and to help me. And it would be a disservice if I didn't do my best. And I really appreciate what you guys do. And I was like, well, damn, it sunk in. You know what I mean? Like, it
was touching.
Yes. And it made me feel like, oh, I'm really doing my job. I'm really doing what I'm supposed to be doing. It's like in the movies, where they have like Dead Poets Society and all that shit. It's like, it's not like it is in the films where like, you turn everyone's life around and a couple of hours. It takes a year, sometimes years of relationship building, but and
it doesn't happen in one class.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. And like, no one that goes into education should ever expect that. But like, after a year of plugging it away with the same group of 30 kids, if you can say that you've impacted one life positively, even if it's small, man. That's huge.
You know what's messed up about that, by the way? My sister works in the school district too. She mentioned that sometimes, you know, especially during the pandemic when they were giving out lunches, in regards to like what kids go through, the reason, like, you know, of course they were giving out lunches. Some kids only eat throughout the whole day what they give out in the lunches, in the lunch school.
That's true.
That's the only meal they'll have for the... That's fucked up. Thank God for the Black Panthers for starting that, by the way. Weren't they the ones that started free lunch in schools? I could have sworn that was their thing. They started the free lunch program.
They started free breakfast programs.
Breakfast.
Free lunch at schools have been a thing, I think, since school was a thing.
Okay.
Maybe kids brought their own lunch during the one-room schoolhouse days, but like by the time you had bigger classrooms and multiple teachers, cooking at school was the standard. But free breakfast, definitely Black Panthers.
Speaking of people from the 60s, I've been binging on all kinds of different videos on YouTube, and I have something that's going to sound crazy, but I'm going to say it. I've been watching a lot of videos on Charles Manson. I think he was innocent. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
Okay. All right.
I saw your face. You're like,
I mean, you want to know something depressing? Charles Manson had a fucking girlfriend. He had a swastika carved in his head, had a fucking girlfriend. Yeah.
I would like to point out that he was, he had the charisma of like a perfect D20 and
So
several.
what I'm saying is, there's hope for everyone.
Yes.
yeah, see?
There's hope for everyone.
So he married a 30-year-old something. Fucking, that was weird. A 30-year-old something chick, or maybe in her 20s, in his late 70s, he married her in prison. And the other guy too, what's his name? The Night Stalker. The fucking Richard Ramirez got married to some young chick in prison also. That's so fucked up. Like that is fucked up. I mean, you know, there's people that argue that he never did personally kill anyone, but
I mean, OJ didn't kill anybody, and everybody never stopped accusing him, even though he was acquitted. The glove didn't fit, therefore he was acquitted.
yeah. Do you think he killed her?
OJ? I don't know, that book he wrote was pretty convincing.
Where he was like, I'm not saying I did it, but if I did it, here's how I would have done it.
The fact that you're saying that about your wife is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Maybe he had someone do it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Because wasn't it a situation where like she owed money or her friend owed money or there was
Look, whether or not you think OJ did it or not, can we all agree it's time to forgive Mel Gibson? How much time needs to pass before the world accepts Mel Gibson again?
He needs to make
Did he apologize?
He needs to make Passion of the Christ Part 2. I'm just kidding.
He made that movie The Beaver.
Yeah.
Oh, that's recent, right?
Well, that was like 2014, 2015.
Okay. He's already forgiven, bro.
With Jodie Foster and Anton Yelchin, he did Get the Gringo.
He's been forgiven. What do you mean? That dude's been in hella shit since that.
He has, but it's never been like, because you remember in the 90s.
See, if he would have been black, he would have not been able to do anything.
Well, you remember in the 90s, you had Lethal Weapon, you had Braveheart, you had Ransom, you had all these movies he was in. And then the whole thing where allegedly he called some cops Jews and dropped some N-bombs and said some anti-Semitic stuff because his girlfriend was stressing him out. And now the world seems to have casted him aside.
She was stressing him out. Oh, I didn't hear that fucking side of the story. Phil, dropped some N-bombs, motherfucker.
I will say this much. I think that his star, there are some stars in Hollywood where they just fade. You know what I mean? They drop out of the limelight. They stop getting parts for whatever reason. And that could just be him. We didn't see Michael Keaton for hella long. And then all of a sudden it was like Birdman.
But he never got like... The thing is, Mel transitioned to a director in a way. And that's I think I liked him. I didn't really like his movies all that much. I like the movies he directed. Apocalypto is one of my favorite movies. It's inaccurate in a lot of ways, but it's a good fucking movie. He didn't use any people you know. He didn't use any actors that like were you know, use all native actors that you've never seen ever again, but they fucking played the shit out of the role, and it was like it was a big thing for him to direct that the way he did it. It looked dope, and there's never been anything like that before. There's been movies about Egypt, there's been movies about all these other, you know, but there's never been a movie about and Passion of the Christ is hands down one of the best movies ever.
And honestly, for them to make a movie and use native actors, instead is huge.
Some of them were Native American, like from here, from North America, and they played, you know, Mayans.
I mean, that still leaks better than like, oh, we're going to do a movie about Egypt with all those black and brown people, but we're going to cast all white. Like, why the fuck is the Pharaoh having a Scottish accent?
Yeah, exactly.
The fuck is going on? I'm confused. Is this Africa or is this like Wales?
I'm surprised they used Daniel Day-Lewis as a fucking Apocalypto. As a lead role. Daniel Day-Lewis.
Good Lord.
He would have done great, I'm sure, but you know, there's always those roles. Like, look. All right, hear me out. Robert Downey Jr. did well in Tropic Thunder. He did so. I mean, I'm not saying it was accurate, but it was fucking funny. Like, oh shit! Like he's playing.
He's playing a white guy playing a black. He's playing a white guy in blackface.
Did you guys see that meme where somebody was like, if they were to recast Tony Stark as a black man, who should play him? And they posted a picture of Robert Downey Jr. from Tropic Thunder.
That was one of the funniest. Like hilarious. Just like
Buddha Sweat.
Eddie Murphy as a white guy in SNL for that skit. Do you remember that? Did you ever see that?
Yeah.
Where he walks into the liquor store or whatever, and he grabs a paper, and then the white cashier said, "Just take it." he's trying to pay for the paper. Just go. And then there's another scene where he walks in to get a loan from the bank, and the banker's a black dude, and his manager, white guy, taps him in the shoulder. He's like, oh, "I'll take care of this." Gets his application, he just shreds. He's like, "How much money do you need?" You never seen that?
No.
Dude, it's hilarious.
Oh my gosh.
Eddie Murphy, whiteface, he tells the guy, that N-word didn't know what he was doing. They laugh like, ha ha ha. He just pulls out a stack of money. How much do you need? One of the funniest skits, bro.
Oh man.
So let me ask you this: as a comedian, SNL or Mad TV?
SNL back in the days, I would say SNL back in the days. I think the last good SNL times were probably the Sandler and Chris Farley ish.
See, but I think
this new Pete Davidson era sucks.
But like SNL goes through kind of like waves.
Yeah.
And I feel like just when you like count SNL out, they do something to make them go viral. Like when they had Chadwick Boseman on Black Jeopardy.
That was hilarious. That was one of the last things I enjoyed.
Yeah.
But
it's like I look back at like you said, the 90s with like Adam Sandler and Chris Farley, and they were like
the Norm Macdonald days too.
When they were like consistently cranking stuff out. Like Chris Farley, I miss that guy. He was a fucking comic genius. Yeah. And so I do think like the consistency is not there. But I think more things have gone viral from SNL than ever did with Mad TV.
But Mad TV has some good shit though. You can't. Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Mad TV had some dope fucking thing, man. So like Mad TV, like if you compare a lot of their skits to SNL now, it's not even like that skit where they made fun of Joe Rogan that recently came out. That was trash, man. There's some. I feel like I could have wrote a funnier skit to make fun of Joe Rogan and I don't know. I mean, I'm talking out of my ass, but it's just SNL now kind of sucks, and it's gone downwards a lot. The Trump shit was kind of funny just because it was good acting, but it wasn't really funny. You know, like he did a funny impression of Trump. What's his name? Alec Baldwin, but it wasn't funny. Like, you know, I think I don't know if you ever heard, like when it came to doing Trump material, the funniest shit was the phone calls between Trump and Putin that fucking Conan made. Did you ever hear those?
Yeah, I heard those. Those were hilarious.
He calls Putin and he's like, just a second, and you hear pew pew like he's killing someone. Yes, Donald. that was funnier than anything. Honestly, as far as skit goes and content, like all those like shows in the last 10 years, I think Conan put out funnier shit. When Dion Cole.
So I was going to ask you next about like late night TV. How do you like back in like the day? Like late night was it. Like Johnny Carson with the Tonight Show, and then David Letterman with his stuff.
Yeah.
And then in the 90s, I think it kind of got grandfathered in where it wasn't really all that anymore, but everyone still treated it like it was because of the previous generations.
Yeah.
You know, and then, you know, Conan's run on the Tonight Show was what it was, and
he was great. I like Conan better than a lot of the other ones in the most recent years. Even when Letterman was on, I would still rather watch Conan than Letterman.
And Letterman still has a show. Doesn't he have like a Netflix thing?
I would still watch Letterman. Letterman's I like Letterman's interview.
What I loved about Conan was when the whole thing with like Jay Leno, where like Jay Leno's show wasn't doing so well, and so he wanted to move his show into the Tonight Show spot and push the Tonight Show to 12:01. And Conan was like, no, because then it's not the Tonight Show, it's the Tomorrow Show. Like the Tonight Show's always been at 11 o'clock. I'm not bumping the Tonight Show.
Yeah.
So then Jay Leno was like, well, then I'll just take the Tonight Show back then. And the network was like, if he wants it back, let's give it back to him. Conan, that whole thing was going down. During Conan's like last week on the Tonight Show was probably the best stuff he did on that run.
Yeah.
Because the network was contractually obligated to do whatever skits he wanted. So he was purposely trying to bankrupt the network by doing the most expensive skits possible. Like I think his last episode, he introduced a new character called the Bugatti Mouse, which was just a Bugatti with mouse ears and whiskers on it. And then he had like a Tyrannosaurus skeleton spraying an original Picasso with beluga caviar. Like he was just deliberately trying to come up with the most expensive skits imaginable to get back at the network for taking the Tonight Show away from him and giving it back to Jay Leno.
That's hilarious.
That's what you call malicious compliance.
Yeah.
Where you do your job, what you're asked to do, but you do it in like
and honestly,
jacked up creative way possible.
I'm kind of glad in the way that Conan did. I remember that time because George Lopez Tonight was on at TBS, which is one of the reasons TBS kind of flourished. And then when Conan came, he took Lopez's show basically.
Well, so here's because I for some reason I got back into like late night during that. Like TBS wanted to bring Conan over after he left the Tonight Show, and they wanted to give him George Lopez's spot. And apparently Conan told the network, I don't want to do that because that's what just happened to me. I don't want to do that to somebody else. Yeah. And the network was like, well, what if George was okay with it? And they were like, I mean, if George is okay with it, then I guess, but I don't want to do to him what Leno just did to me. And so the network like reached out to George Lopez, and George Lopez was like, yeah, sure, Conan will bring a lot of eyes to the network. I get to come into work an hour later, why not? Let's do it.
Oh, shit.
But then years later, after Lopez Tonight got canceled, he started talking about it in interviews, and then he was saying that like he actually wasn't okay with it, but he knew if he told the network that the network would just cancel him, and so he just went along with it for the sake of his show.
Which would have happened. Which would have for sure happened. Unfortunately. But that's why I like right now, I mean, this is the era of the podcast. Conan's doing podcasts now. I don't know if you know. That's one of the reasons why I left the show, and he's also going to be doing something.
Now, is he doing a video podcast?
Yeah.
All right.
I'm pretty sure he is because I think one of the reasons he left the Tonight Show, the Conan Tonight, whatever his show was called, Conan. He's got something coming on with HBO Max.
Okay, so it's just Rogan, Conan, and us. Good to know.
Basically.
Oh my goodness.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna. I like Colbert.
I'm not a fan of Colbert's. His is all political.
That's why I like Colbert.
In not a good way though. It's like Fox Network but for liberals. That's what I feel for him. Like it's like during Trump. Okay, yeah, I'm not a Trump guy either, but like, are you gonna say anything funny or anything else? Like it's all like his 4 year presidency for Trump brought on a lot of corny jokes from the Colbert's writers. Like, it was all about Trump. Like, there's hella other shit we were just talking about with Homegirl. There's a lot of other shit that's happening too, but it's like that's all his focus was, and it was not even. It's like the complete opposite of watching like a fucking like
Well,
a Fox News, like Tucker Carlson,
Well, I was
funny, a little bit funnier.
Like, that's like with us, like, we're not afraid to talk about politics, but we talk about other shit too, because we don't want it to be just all about politics all the time.
I think Colbert brought his sensibility from the Colbert Report.
I love the Colbert Report.
But the difference between the two seems to be that with the Colbert Report, he was like a mock-up of like a Republican, so he was pretending to be one. So it's like that's the joke.
Yeah.
But then like here, he was more like a Daily Show where he was just sort of like mean, and because the Daily Show was like just talking mad shit about the other side.
That's honestly, I would have preferred if Jon Stewart got it instead of Colbert, because I think Colbert, he's not as interesting to me
as Jon Stewart.
Jon Stewart would have been the best late night show because he's also a comic. He could have been on that level. Mm-hmm. I'll say this though, this is totally unrelated. I was watching this podcast episode with what's his name? Bobby's World creator. You know what I'm talking about? Howie Mandel. Mm-hmm. He talked about the day that he got kicked off from doing the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. He did 20 episodes in a row, or not in a row, but 20 episodes. And one of the last episode he did, he got called for a last minute. It was a funny story. The way he tells it is hilarious. He got called last minute cancellation on the Tonight Show. That was the day that what's his name, Sammy Davis Jr. got diagnosed with cancer. He was going to be the guest, but he got diagnosed with cancer that day, so he canceled his show. So he heard from the studio. They reached out to him. Please, we need a last minute like appearance. Can you please show up? He says he was filming a movie somewhere. He says, okay, I'm just wrapped up here. I'll do it, but one condition: I can come up with the material, and I'm not gonna sit through a read with you guys. Like, all right, fine, fuck it. He went to, I forgot what studio, the NBC studio or whatever, to grab, like, he went to the prop room and he found this like giant, I forgot what it was, like a giant saber-toothed tiger or some shit like that, and he strapped on a carrot to it. And he said to some guy, can you please take this to the studio? And like, all right. He didn't know, he had no plans. He just saw the saber-toothed tiger.
Oh God!
Strapped like a carrot or something on it.
No.
He was gonna bring it on stage, but he didn't know what he was gonna do. So he finally gets there. Johnny Carson presents him, Howie Mandel, and he spends like, I think he said like 5 minutes of airtime, pushing and having the camera guys help him push that saber-toothed tiger on stage. Oh. And he finally get it on, and then it was like awkward, pushing it, and then it's like the cameras couldn't move, so they had to wait for it to get it all the way through. So then the thing is in the shot, and he sits down like after 6 minutes of airtime of pushing that shit, and he sits down and he's just very quiet. He says, Johnny asks him, so how are you? He's like, I'm good. And then he kind of like is having like an awkward moment, and he says, what is with he's like, Johnny, you can ask me about anything. I just don't want to talk about that. I'll answer any of your questions. I just don't want to talk about that. It was like the weirdest. Johnny was like, what? Like he didn't get it. So all that work, he's like, you can ask me about anything. I just don't want to talk about that. Please. And Will Ferrell did something like that on Conan once too. Like he copied that same skit, but it was just. And then Johnny just cut the commercial, and then during commercial he was pissed, and then they did some other shit segment, and then after that he told Johnny never wants you back.
You told me I could work on whatever.
Yeah, and that's fucking funny. But now, like, talk shows, like, there's hella talk shows. There's the James Corden guy. I don't like his show.
The fat guy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like James Corden. See, that's the thing is, like, back in the day, like, Johnny Carson had the power to like make you a star.
Exactly.
You know, like he had that much.
He was one of the only ones.
Like that was the thing. Like, you know, he would have comics come on and do a set, and then if Johnny called you over to the desk, you were a fucking made man. That's what happened with Drew Carey. Drew Carey went on there, did, you know, a 5-10 minute set, and then Carson called him over to the desk, did an interview with him, and fucking propelled his whole career. That was the birth of Drew Carey, right? I think modern talk show hosts don't have that same influence because there's so many of them and there's so much content.
And they all say the same shit.
Well, back in the day, there was only like 8 shows on TV. Everybody watched the same shit. Now there's too much content. So, like, for example, there was this band called The Doors. I don't know if you ever heard of The Doors. They had this lead singer, like Jim something.
Jim Morrison.
Yeah, that guy, Jimmy M, right? So The Doors were going to perform on The Tonight Show, and the producers told them that, you know, their big song was, you know, Light My Fire. Yeah. And they were the producers told them they had to change the lyrics because the lyrics were too sexually suggestive. What? And so they were just like, okay, yeah, I mean, that's what you want, that's what you want. And then they just fucking went on stage and sang the song as normal and didn't change a fucking word. And then Johnny Carson got pissed and told them they'll never play The Tonight Show again. And they're like, we already played The Tonight Show. We just did. So it's one of those things where it's like they already made it to that upper echelon, so to them not going back didn't make a difference because like we already played The Tonight Show.
Yeah. And it was live, right?
Yeah, it was live, so there's nothing they could do about it. Yeah. But it's like nowadays that doesn't really fly anymore because censorship is so heavy and political correctness is so heavy.
I mean, it sounds like they tried to censor it and failed. So they've gotten better at ensuring that they get what they don't want.
Yeah, well, like the same thing kind of happened with Nirvana. I forget which show it was that Nirvana played, but like their second album, In Utero, had just come out, but they wanted them to play Smells Like Teen Spirit because that was their big hit. Yeah. And so Kurt Cobain comes out and he just he just starts singing Rape Me. And he just does like the opening chords to Rape Me and then transitions into Smells Like Teen Spirit just to like give the fucking producers a heart attack. But he's like, we have other fucking songs besides just that one. So I think there was more like artistic like freedom back then.
There was no internet.
Well, yeah, there was no internet
where people could post. I remember when the Deftones had their album release party online. This was in the 90s. And they printed out a bunch of papers, and it was questions people were submitting. They were live on a webcam. And they were doing their release party for one of their albums, and they were talking about how they were one of the first people to ever live stream an album, and they printed out these pieces of paper, and it was questions people were submitting. So like it's crazy. We literally have been like teens through the transition.
Yeah, because now like everything is so overly saturated. There's fucking 30 different streaming subscription things you can subscribe to. There's more content than anybody could ever consume in a lifetime. So it's easy to get lost in the noise because everybody's just adding to the noise, and it's hard to stand out and have your voice be heard, and it's hard to have that kind of influence because it's like you say Saturday Night Live sucks these days, but that's because there's like 300 other shows on YouTube and TikTok and Netflix that people are watching, so it doesn't have the same influence that it used to. Because not only that, the people who used to work on Saturday Night Live are now working at all these other places too, so everybody's stretched real thin. You don't have the same. Like back in the day, The Simpsons had the best of the best comedy writers. Now there's so many comedy shows that like you're lucky to get fucking one person knows what they're doing.
It is kind of a tradition for SNL cast members to move on to other things. Like Eddie Murphy, right, was a former, movies, whether they're writing the movies or acting in the movies or directing the movies. Like Bill Hader has done some. He produced Nebraska, I think it was. Will Ferrell done a ton of stuff.
The thing is, I'll say this. I just want to clear that up. I do respect SNL as a comedy institution. Like I nothing against that, like at all. But I think when it comes to like Mad TV, even though it only happened for a little bit, it kind of had more. Like it seemed like they had more creative freedom than these SNL skits.
Yeah, it seemed like on Mad TV they would just fucking try shit and see if it works. Yeah. And sometimes it did, sometimes it didn't.
Which is not the case according to Bobby Lee, because I listened to his podcast. Yeah. But then he was also the only Asian guy, so he was also.
Yeah. Well, I heard his podcast. It was interesting to hear like the decline of that show, because he talked about in one episode like when he first started on that show, they would do fucking Bobby Lee. They would do like 12, 20 takes, Yeah. And then by the last season, they were like, look, we'd like to get it in 1, we have to get it in 2.
Yeah.
So you can just kind of see like the decline.
And they weren't like, they weren't live like SNL was live.
No, they weren't live. I believe they were.
They were all day.
No, they were like Chappelle Show skit.
Yeah.
Like it's all skits.
So the thing,
They did do some live shit though, like in
the thing that I also will say about SNL, I think the trouble is you're pressured to come up with something new every single week. It's not like you have a set amount of things per season, like there's 20 episodes that we have to make up great, then you take a break, then you come back.
They got to crank it out.
And like I think that sketch writing on that level, when you know people are going to tune in to watch your crew live and you have to come up with a new set of sketches every single, that's hard. So when you're cranking out that much stuff, even with a team of writers, you'll be lucky if you get one really great sketch a month, every 6 months, whatever, but they're still stuck to this like production schedule that doesn't really allow them to not be great.
I've heard Hannibal Buress's like stand-up where he was in SNL where he's like, one, it takes a lot of time to write your shit, and then you got to still have these whoever's going to be on the show act it out in front of the producers and the network to see if this shit's even going to make it on air. So that's why that other guy who was on SNL that now has his own talk show, I forget his name,
Michael Myers? No. Mike Myers?
No.
Seth Meyers.
Seth Meyers, sorry.
He said like whatever didn't, like what his, I saw him on that show with Jerry Seinfeld. Whatever material of his didn't get turned into a skit, he would use it for a stand-up. Yeah. Fuck it.
Well, that reminds me of when Joe Rogan and Doug Stanhope took over the Man Show after Jimmy and Adam left.
Horrible.
It was, but Joe Rogan had Doug Stanhope on his podcast years ago, and they talked about that. And one of the things, I guess, like they knew, like, hey, we can't do Adam and Jimmy better than Adam and Jimmy. And the network was like, that's fine. We don't want you to be. We want you to do your own thing. And so when they signed on, they were told from Comedy Central that they're going to have all this freedom and they can go even raunchier and they can push things even further because they wanted to make it distinct and different from Adam and Jimmy's, because that's the only way they're going to be able to keep the show going. If they just kept doing the same thing, they're going to fall flat on their face. And then once cameras started rolling, the producers started saying, no, you can't do this, you can't do that. They started getting a lot of pushback, and the producers just wanted them to do what Adam and Jimmy did. And then that's why it fucking sucked and only lasted one season.
Yeah, and I think that's why it's better to just come up with a whole new show and do something different, because that's why I feel with SNL was really like a spin-off of some other show from what I've heard, some show from the 60s. I don't know if that's true. I got to look at that. It was called, I forgot what it was called. Some Canadian show. Do you know what I'm talking about? SNL's been around for a long time.
They had a documentary called Live on Saturday night, or Live from New York, about the history of SNL. Yeah. And it was in theaters. I wanted to see it, and then was the theater I broke my leg? Something kept me from seeing it.
I haven't seen it. And to be honest, I've never really was a big SNL guy. Like I said, for someone that does stand-up comedy, sometimes I don't really watch too much of I've only seen a handful of Mad TV episodes. I've only seen a few skits I've never seen a full episode of SNL. I've seen The Simpsons a lot. That's one of those things I've seen a lot. Mm-hmm. In Living Color I did watch. For comedy, I'm more of a sitcom guy.
Yeah, so I'll be honest. I think my two, when you look at all the sketch comedy shows, I think In Living Color and all that are probably my two favorites. Like SNL and Mad TV's probably wouldn't even break my top two or whatever. But as far as I do think sitcoms, I think I enjoy a little bit better. I've had people over the years tell me, "Oh, you're funny. You should do stand up." And I'm like, I'm more sitcom funny. I'm not really stand up funny.
Sorry, I just got a cough attack.
Sorry, I didn't really watch Living Color when it was running, because as a kid growing up, I didn't watch a whole lot of stuff that was directed at adults. Like the main thing that I saw, I think, was like Nick at Night, and that's just because all the stuff on Nickelodeon was over. So I was watching like I Love Lucy and stuff like that. But so my first introduction to sketch comedy was all that, and I loved all that. And then
that's sketch comedy.
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that.
It's nothing. It's sketches.
See, I've never even seen that either.
It's nothing. But as a matter of fact, when I say it was my introduction, I didn't realize that there were other sketch shows until I was like, I want to say it was 5th grade, maybe 5th grade. I'd gone out to Alabama to visit my cousin Melvin, and we were, I spent the night over at his place. And after we got done playing Mortal Kombat, he cut the game off, and there was this sketch on, and I was like, oh, it's Britney Spears, because I'd started listening, and she's in a dollhouse, and what are they doing? Oh, it's a sketch. Oh, shoot, it's like all that. So I remember telling my friends, hey, there's this like show that's like all that, but for grown-ups. This is Saturday Night Live.
It's been going around longer.
Yeah, but I didn't know. I was just a kid. What did I know? And like, and then like I started kind of like watching SNL on my own at home, and then I stumbled across Mad TV, and like what I could gather the difference.
Question for you.
Sure.
What's older, Mad Magazine or SNL?
Probably
around the same time, no?
SNL was like what, the 60s or 70s?
I mean, we all have phones. We could look it up.
Yeah,
but whatever. Like, do you guys remember when fucking David Spade got chewed out by Chris Rock over an SNL joke?
I thought it was Eddie Murphy.
I think Mad Magazine.
Yeah, that's what it was. Eddie Murphy.
Mad Magazine's older.
Okay.
1960s.
Well, do you remember that when David Spade got chewed out by Eddie Murphy?
What was it about again?
So David Spade used to do like the news show, Weekend Update type deal, and then in between stories, he just had like one quick throwaway joke where they like threw up a picture of Eddie Murphy, and David Spade went, hey, look, kids, a falling star. And then moved on to the next story. And then I guess Eddie Murphy got super pissed and fucking called up David Spade and was like, look, motherfucker, I made that show. I paved that ground you're walking. The only reason you have a job is because of me. You need to show some fucking respect.
I remember hearing about that. That was like some... Yeah. Okay, so first issue of Mad Magazine was 1952.
Yeah, it's older.
And SNL has been around since the 70s. So yeah.
Yeah. Like and I tell you, like watching both programs, like what I took away was that like Mad TV would often go like a lower brow humor. Like they would be the ones that were like, okay, we're gonna take the Asian lady and give her a really super duper accent.
That's what Bobby Lee was.
And that's the whole joke.
Yeah.
Whereas SNL was a bit more sophisticated with their jokes.
And then Conan for me, when he was on The Simpsons, they had one of their best runs. And then when they had him on SNL, also like it was always a good. He was always I think for me, as far as like there's some this is the beauty of having YouTube. Have you ever heard of Dick Cavett?
Yeah.
I think that's probably one of the best talk show hosts ever.
Old school too.
Old school 60s and 70s, and I rewatch all that shit now, like especially since we started doing this. Mm-hmm. And Dick Cavett is probably the best interviewer. Even though it was like a podcast, because they were not just doing the little interviews like what's his name, Letterman and Johnny Carson. Johnny Carson was more of having fun with comics and showing you why they were good, like the panel shit. But Dick Cavett is interviewing, man. Like I don't know if you ever heard of Dick Cavett, Phil.
I need to see it. Like the name sounds familiar, but I can't put a face to the name.
Well, this is what's dope, man. Like seeing those interviews, and I think I've mentioned this before, but like I just rewatched like his interview with Roman Polanski, which is a piece of shit, according to all the shit he's done. Roman Polanski, and he's detailing like growing up in I think Poland, and his experiences after his wife died, and like he talks about what Stanley Kubrick's advice to him. Like, just if you respect like movies, like old movies like that.
I respect his films. I don't respect him. I respect his
sure.
films.
But I'm just saying as an example, because he also had what's his name? What's that? Psycho director. The director of Psycho. and The Birds.
Yeah. You mean the amazing director? He had the TV show, the murder TV show, Alfred Hitchcock.
Alfred Hitchcock.
There we
dude,
go.
he interviewed Alfred Hitchcock, the guy that directed Citizen Kane. What's his name?
Orson Welles.
Orson Welles.
He would have still been alive in the 60s. That's right.
Orson Welles also had a talk show at one point.
Oh, holy
and he
smokes, Orson Welles.
You remember?
Yeah, he did.
He had a Andy Kaufman, and Andy Kaufman never really respected talk shows like that, where he would kind of.
Andy Kaufman was nuts.
Yeah.
My favorite.
He wasn't.
One of my favorite characters from Taxi was played by Andy
Kaufman.
I don't mean he had a mental illness. It just
no, but
like
he was crazy. He was crazy.
He was like intentionally crazy.
Yeah,
not like
that's what I mean. But he would always act out in talk shows. But when he did, and it's crazy because I actually went to look at Orson Welles' talk show, and one of his guests was Andy Kaufman. Yeah. And Andy Kaufman was like, because out of respect, how much everybody respects Orson Welles. He, according to a lot of filmmakers, he made one of the best movies of all time.
He did.
Yeah. So
like he created techniques that we still use today.
Yeah, he changed film forever. Like, and Andy Kaufman like showed him respect in a way that he never. But being able to see all that shit,
he talked to him like a normal person.
Yeah, he did. This dude interviewed Orson Welles, and if you hear some of these stories, and it's crazy that we can see this shit. Like we were just talking about, like MLK wasn't that long ago. All that shit that were in those interviews. Fucking. Alfred Hitchcock was born in the 1800s, and there's videos of him doing interviews in our not in our lifetime, but in living memory where it's not that long ago. Like that's, to me, I like seeing that shit. So I appreciate the hell out of going back to watch some shit like that. That's what I love, man. I love YouTube. There's a video of an interview with a slave, an ex-slave, an old man who was a slave when he was young. Like that's fucking crazy. There's this video of this TV show back in I forgot what days this was. It was a really old man. I'm sure if you've heard of this, where it's like this talk show from like one of the first TV shows ever, and they're interviewing this guy. Well, not interviewing, but there's this game show where they're trying to guess something. Like it's a game, like it's a game show. It's like the host, someone comes up and then they tell something in the ear to the host, and they only give you clues of what he said to him. And his thing was he was there when Abraham Lincoln was assassinated. It's crazy to see like that in like,
oh God.
Yeah, and that's all that is just.
He must have been a child when that happened to him.
He was. He described it how he didn't understand what was going on until he saw, like, so I don't know. I think that's why it's harder to also, like, what I'm going back to what I was originally saying. That's why it's harder to watch. You had to watch the Tonight Show back then. You had no choice to watch SNL. Now we can go and watch Chappelle Show. You can watch reruns of all this dope shit.
Or you could watch new stuff like it's literally called the Black Lady Comedy Sketch Show. Oh, it's on HBO Max. Okay. It's got like a bunch of black female writers and sketches.
Yeah, you could go. There's options to watch anything now, and like that's why I think people have like right now. If you say who's the top talk show host right now, it's probably Rogan or one of those podcast guys that are more people too. I think I don't know if more people, but I'm pretty sure their numbers are like up there with with TV because TV got too expensive. That's why people got all these streaming
cable channels. Anyway. Broadcast is still free.
Cable for sure.
Yeah.
That's why Conan left.
Man,
he was the last talk show host that I would watch on TV. I don't think I've ever sat through an entire episode of Corden. Kimmel is horrible. I fucking hate Kimmel.
It's so weird because like Man Show Jimmy Kimmel is like a completely different person from talk show host Jimmy Kimmel.
It's because he was fake all along. That's what I think he was been fake all along. Like I don't never liked that guy, man. The one of the best, like the most recent, I would say, I guess you could call it talk show. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Tough Crowd. You ever heard of that? It was on after Chappelle Show, and it was a Comedy Central show where Colin Quinn, who was on SNL, he had this like it was like it's not a talk show per se. He had 4 comics, like well-established comics: Patrice O'Neill, Greg Giraldo, all those, a lot of established comics. He would have all 4, and they would go over a lot of like topics that were relevant to the time. A lot of it was, 9/11 and Iraq War, material, because that's what it was around, and it was a little raunchier than anything. It was raunchier than Chappelle's show. Chappelle's show was raunchy, and it was also interesting topics that they would say. And some of the shit they say in there, you probably wouldn't be able to see on TV or not even on fucking social media. So it's a nice window to look back to. And then there was this other one called The Green Room, which was also like a talk show, same style, with comics and in front of a live audience. And what was the other one that came out in the 90s? Ricky Lake.
Oh, there's a daytime show.
But even then, that was
daytime talk show.
That was a daytime talk show, but even then, Ricky Lake, they would quote that shit in movies and stuff like that. Like,
that's true.
Ricky Lake was like, wasn't the audience involved in the conversation with that one, like Oprah?
Yeah, and like, that's something that I don't think that has not made a resurgence. It's daytime talk shows.
Not really.
I think they've kind of gone. Now, granted, I spend most of my days at work, but
well, the thing is, back in the day, the wife would stay home while the dude went and provided for his family. Everybody got to work. Now there's nobody at home during the day to watch the daytime TV.
Yeah, except for retired folks. Like my grandparents, but
or when you call off work, sometimes you watch that shit. Well, watch Maury.
Last time I called off work, I had to go. I had to handle some business. I wasn't even home.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, those days are just. Last time I checked in on like daytime talk show stuff, I was like, wait. The security guy, Steve, has a show now. Steve has a show. Wow, and then like one evening I was like tuning into TV and like Jerry Springer's a judge now. He's Judge Jerry Springer now?
Dude, Jerry Springer was
I'm confused.
That was a wildest show back in the days.
I was convinced that like Jerry Springer would be the perfect person to like, if you were to ever imagine what Satan was like. He's not he isn't some maniacal, crazed, cartoonish villain who's like, bleh. If Satan is real, he is the guy walking around hell just calm, just the voice of reason while everybody else is just in misery and saying the wisest shit ever, like, well, I think if today has taught us anything, I'm like, yep, that's Satan right there, because he's able to watch these people melt down on camera and not break a sweat, not be bothered by it. He's just
professionalism, homie. Professionalism. Same as Dr. Phil. Dr. Phil's the same kind of fucking evil.
You're right.
But
at least Dr. Phil's trying to give him therapy. Jerry's neutral as fuck.
Nah, but once you found out, a lot of those Jerry Springer things were
actors.
They're actors. So, it was good content when he had the KKK on and like the fucking Nation of Islam.
Well, I was going to say, like,
that shit was interesting.
Like, Jerry Springer was relentless. Like, you'd have people on there, like, crying because they find out their husband's cheating on them. And then he brings out the husband's mistress, like, well, let's see who he's cheating on you with.
That's the devil, yep. That's
but it brought so much. We used to watch
straight face.
We used to watch that, like, as a family. Like, wow, this guy's cheating with that one. And it became like, there was this talk show, daytime talk show host. It was a I believe Peruvian lady, and she was popular. Her name was Laura, and her thing was these people would come with these horrible cases, like she got cheated on or her husband used to beat her all the time, and every fucking solution to their problem, she would like, there's a surprise for you behind this door. She would open it, and it's a little cart, so you can sell fruits and shit. You sell fruit. The kid comes out, he's like, I have cancer, I have AIDS or whatever. He's like, I got AIDS because someone raped me that had AIDS. And I'm like, oh my god, here's your little cart. Like,
Jesus. Did you know that Jerry was a politician, like a local state politician from wherever before he got his show?
I thought he was
mayor, governor.
Yeah, he was a mayor.
Yeah, he was a mayor. Like, I'm like, who let this dude? Well, I guess if anyone could be calm enough to run a city, no matter how crazy it got, it'd be Jerry Springer.
What city?
I don't remember. I feel like it was somewhere in like the middle of the country.
Not in California.
No, it was like in the middle of the country, like Ohio or something.
So he's a judge.
Idaho or some.
He's a judge now.
Yeah, he's a judge. He is a Judge Jerry Springer. That's a show they've got, and I'm like, oh my god.
Those judge shows are horrible
Did
too.
Mills Lane die or something? What do you?
Those judge shows. Judge. What's her name? Judy.
Yeah, Judge Judy.
That's the kind of shit I watch when I call off. Sometimes you'll have a day where like, you feel like your life sucks and why am I coming to work this day? I need a day to just clear my mind. I feel bad about I'm working somewhere I hate and I'm tired of my job. I've been working towards these things and I'm going nowhere. And then you'll turn on, you call off for the day and you watch some of these, Judge Brown or Judge Judy shows or
Divorce Court
or fucking Maury Povich, and you see these. I had a kid with 3 guys. I don't know which one the father is. So
you know what? Maury used to be.
And then I feel better about my situation.
Oh God, Maury used to be good. What I mean by that, good is a daytime talk show.
He was a serious talk show host at one point.
Yeah, he used to have people on, and they used to share their stories, and they used to be good. And then something happened. It started when he began bringing like dysfunctional children, and it was kind of like, oh, this kid's going to boot camp, and the next week this kid's going to, and then it became, who's the dad? And I'm like, you're not even a talk show anymore, are you?
It was these kids. I remember when the decline started when he had this kid would hit his mom because he was a bad kid, and then they brought out a drill sergeant and he yelled at him, and then after the commercial the kid was normal now. He apologized to his mom on TV.
Boot camp.
Yeah, the guy had him doing push-ups backstage. They showed him yelling at him as he's doing push-ups. And then he's like, oh, he's gonna be nice to his mom now. And that was the whole episode. They fixed the situation during this and
push-ups and some yelling.
Right,
oh my gosh.
An hour. Phil wants to go home now. So
okay.
I mean, it is late.
It is late.
And I'm probably going to get yelled at. I'm afraid to check my phone right now.
Oh, I bet.
So.
Now it's
go ahead
one of
and
those.
check your phone on air so we can.
Yeah.
I'd rather not.
Let's do it on air.
She doesn't watch the show, but I'd rather not risk it.
You don't have to risk it. You
don't post this clip on Instagram. That's the only thing she fucking watches.
You should call her while we're.
Hold on. You don't have to read the messages. Just look at your phone. And I want to see. I want to see your reaction to you looking at your phone.
Oh God, fucking son of a fucking.
How bad?
That's been a voice party, everybody.
Is it really bad?
We are out. Oh God, fuck my life.
How bad is it?